Nagasaki, never again.
Thank you. Thank you for coming today again. We're standing here in front of the San Francisco Japanese consulate. We are standing here with anger. We are standing here with our frustrations. And we are concerning the victims' welfare. That's why we are here. Today is the 79th our No Nukes Action Rally. We are here every 11th of the month, standing and protesting here for our government. After 8 years, the situation of this Fukushima disaster will get better? Never! Even after 8 years, things are even getting worse and deteriorating. Because even the melting core, we still don't know where exactly and what is the condition. Of course, the human cannot close to that, and robot cannot go close, so that we really don't know what is the condition. Already, TEPCO and government postponed the start of the retrieve this melted core many times. But for me, another maybe 50 years, 100 years, it takes this task. This is for the first task of the human being, trying to retrieve the melted nuclear filled core. So we don't know how to do. And of course that several thousand workers daily working hard to clean up and try to decommission for the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, so that they are risking their health. And then the situation around this Fukushima area is not really. But anyway, I'm going to continue after the Roger will speak. He needs to leave a little earlier. So the Roger is a war against war activist and labor union activist. And he has here the speaker and some message. So here the Roger.
Good afternoon, friends and comrades. My name is Roger Scott. I'm with the American Federation of Teachers. I'm a delegate to the San Francisco Labor Council and co-chair of the Social and Economic Justice Committee of the San Francisco Labor Council. I'm here to join you in urging the Japanese government to be fair and honest with the Japanese people, to stop deceiving the people about the dangers of Fukushima, to stop the reopening of nuclear plants, and to make sure that the people who participate in the Olympics are not in danger of nuclear contamination. I also am very much opposed to the Japanese government not releasing Fumiaki Hoshino, the great anti-war activist who's a political prisoner and not a criminal. He, as all of you know, he was just denied parole April 1st, and the Japanese government and correctional system gave no reason for that denial. So I've written a letter to the Shikoku Regional Parole Board and the Ministry of Justice, and I'm going to read the last two paragraphs. I'm writing to urge you to grant a just parole to Mr. Fumiaki Hoshino. It's my understanding that on April 1st, 2019, he was denied parole and no reason was given for that decision. I share the view that Mr. Hoshino was not guilty of the charges against him and didn't receive a fair and just trial. But even if you believe he was guilty and was justly convicted, surely you must recognize that in more than 4 decades he has paid his debt to society and merits release. People throughout the world will continue to demand the release of Tsuyoaki Hoshino in Japan and Umi Abu Jamal in this country. Denial of due process to political prisoners like them and imposing long, harsh sentences that include solitary confinement and other forms of torture and abuse are powerful educational tools that awaken and unite ordinary working people throughout the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. So I will continue. This is the Fukushima, inside of the Fukushima great spirit. This is the data recently announced that the data indicated that grade schools mental deterioration is increasing after meltdown disaster, like autism, like attention deficit syndrome. Those are clearly increased. And also, this is another astounding report that research announced this March that newborn babies, let's see, congenital heart failure in the surgery is very much increasing, like 14%. That before that, like 4 years accident, and after 4 years accident is like over 14%. It's not only the heart abnormality, but also the boys' abnormality of the location of their testicles. Testicles. Those came to the Science magazine, and then this news increasing the those newborn means they developed while they are still mother's womb. So the fetal development in still those very, I think, important facts. But here the USA CBS brought this to the news, but not in the major media in Japan. So this astonishing data is only news in America, but not in Japan. Because Japan, they try to make this disaster light as possible. They don't want people think that the radiation is poison. Radiation are safe, and then nothing really bad things happened after meltdown. And so that the Japanese media is really following government's guidance that even the secrecy law, they are more like obeying government's, ruling. And then another thing that I understand that two things I was very surprised of this news are, okay, what is the second one? Oh yes, so this is entire Japan's data. But what happened to Fukushima? In the Fukushima, of course, it increased, people think. But Fukushima data is not available. The Fukushima municipal didn't disclose the data in Fukushima. This is clearly hiding the Fukushima's problem. So about this increasing for those newborns abnormality, it's very serious disease. Japan didn't put in the media, and then Fukushima didn't disclose the data. Is really ridiculous. And another sad news is the people fled from Fukushima. Those evacuees compensation, helping over their housing. Already actually the voluntary evacuees were cut 2 years ago, 2017 March already. But then this year March they cut the people who had to leave. And then even the next year they're gonna cut compensation for housing, even the area, difficult to return area. They're gonna cut compensation next March. This is this March I think like about 2,200 households were cut for the help. 2,200 households. And then the next March is going to be 2,700 households. And they already cut the volunteer evacuees 2 years ago. What happened to those people? Actually, like about four municipal prefecture continued their help so that they could stay with some subsidies, rent. But this March, I think only one prefecture continue to help, which is the Ehime prefecture. Thank you very much. But the other prefecture cut already. And then those people really, actually more than half people don't know where to live. So that they have to claim for the welfare. And then they are like more than 70%, nearly 80% state that their financial difficulty. First of all, if this Fukushima meltdown didn't happen, they didn't have to move out from Fukushima at all. It's not their fault. It's government have to take care of it. But now, what the government doing? Government try to put lid on the something that they don't want to show to people. So they invited 2020 Olympic. Billions of dollars using this for Olympic. Those money should go to help those victims, because victims are still suffering, still having hard lives. Then why? Japan. It's Japan's responsibility that the Japan push forward the nuclear power plant. Japan's responsibility not to take care of these people. You know the three TEPCO executives are finally on the court now. After 8 years, nobody claimed their responsibility, no criminal responsibility, but those three are on the court and their verdict come to September. They must really have to be jailed, really, because eighth verdict in Japan acknowledged that government and TEPCO's fault, which is TEPCO could foresee that this tsunami coming. It's not impossible. It is not. It is possible to see tsunami sometimes are coming this huge one. So TEPCO knows those data. They got the data and then they could down, which they made the special door front to the radiator building so that the water didn't come in. They didn't do it. They knew that they had to do it, but they didn't do it. That court acknowledged it. And then the government's responsibility was government didn't push them hard to do it. So there are 10 verdicts, but only I think 10 verdicts, 8 verdicts, only 6 or something. 2 of them are not the government's fault, only TEPCO's fault. The other one is TEPCO and the government's fault. I think that many Japanese people should really see this fact that what the government did, what the government didn't do. And then TEPCO really got lazy and then saved the money and didn't do what they needed to do and then brought this catastrophe. They have to be really responsible. And so that this Japan now have to really try to resolve the declaration of the nuclear emergency status instead of have Olympic. Then try to help those victims, those people who cut their residential housing compensation. It is ridiculous. And then this Olympic, amazingly, one of baseball game and then all I think softball games, 4 softball games are going to be held in Fukushima. This baseball game is surrounding the park, and behind that park is a huge forest. The Japanese TEPCO government didn't decontaminate the forest, cannot be decontaminated the forest anyway. So they didn't, so that if the rain, if the wind comes, they bring back. So they are definitely putting athletes and people who join the Olympic, and of course the people who live there all the time, they are putting to the risk of the health. That's the reason the radiation, the kids, those mental deterioration, autism, etc., and then the newborn babies' abnormality. And then even the adult people have always a problem of the brain disease, which is stroke and heart attack. Those are clearly increasing. So the one thing that I just mentioned that about the court, but this is still one of the good news that March 26th, Matsuyama District Court acknowledged that the government and TEPCO's fault, so that they have to compensate the victims. Those people, I think like how many people made it, but they really received very little money, which is dollars, is like $30,000 to $100,000, or people who voluntarily evacuated by themselves. Those people received only $3,000 to $8,000. That is nothing. It is nothing helping them. Even the verdict win, but still, people's difficulty and suffering will be continued. Okay, I am doing here every 11th of a month and writing fresh letter to Prime Minister. This time we asked Grace Shimizu, who is an activist for the Peruvian Japanese incarceration, kidnapping from the Peru to the America, and they had a so bad treatment, but they didn't have any compensation, which Japanese American, who got the compensation, but never the Japanese Peruvian people. So she's a person who telling those stories and then getting the compensation, right? So I like Grace to read her letter to Mr. Abe.
Thanks. Okay, so is this kind of loud enough? Prime Minister Abe, my name is Grace Shimizu. I'm a Japanese American who lives in the San Francisco Bay Area of California, USA. I write in solidarity with the people of Fukushima, the people of Japan, and all peoples around the world who will not forget the disaster endured by the people of Fukushima in Japan on March 11, 2011. The earthquake, the tsunami, and the massive release of radioactive materials from TEPCO's Fukushima nuclear power plant. That was both a natural disaster and a man-made nuclear disaster. And over the 8 years later, that man-made disaster has worsened due to the corrupt collusion between government, regulators, the nuclear industry, and corporate media, giving rise to life-threatening corporate and government policies and practices which continue to endanger Japan and the world. I have hoped that the will of the Japanese people would manifest through its elected officials, but I have been sorely disappointed over these last 8 years. Rather than repeat the litany of failure under your administration's watch to address, let alone resolve, the environmental and human devastation, suffice it to highlight Japan's declaration of nuclear emergency issued by the government has been in effect for 8 years and there is no end in sight. The spread of radioactive materials to the air, land, and sea continues, and contamination has reached other areas of Japan and the Pacific. Contaminated wastewater, now exceeding 1 million tons, is accumulating daily, and due to finite storage space, may soon be released into the sea. If the cores of the reactors in the damaged reactor buildings, which cannot be reached by humans nor robots, were to further melt, or if there was another earthquake or national disaster, the radioactive materials in those cores would be released into the environment. Even after 100 years, Japan will be in a state of nuclear emergency because the radioactive contamination of cesium-137 has a half-life of 30 years. So even after the passage of 100 years, it will have diminished by only 1/10. The welfare and safety of the people of Fukushima, of Japan, of the Asia-Pacific region, and the world, as well as the protection and recovery of our environment, are not the priority of the Japanese government and corporate response and accountability. The Japanese government has raised internationally recognized radiation exposure limits and lowered the protection standards and safety for all people who live in or visit Japan. Children can now live and play in contaminated areas if their exposure to radiation does not exceed 20 millisieverts per year. Elsewhere in the world, this level of radiation exposure is permitted only for radiation workers. The efforts at cleanup, recovery, and mitigation of radioactive exposure to all of Japan's residents has been underfunded and inadequate. Fukushima residents are pressured to return to contaminated areas under threat of losing housing subsidies. This industrial catastrophe, unprecedented in human history, followed by cover-up and obfuscation, has gone unpunished. No TEPCO or corporate leaders, government officials, scholarly experts, and media have been held accountable. The government and corporate strategy is to normalize and divert local, national, and international attention away from Japan's enduring nuclear disaster and to suppress dissent. Currently, that attention and billions of dollars are being redirected to the 2019 Tokyo Olympics. This has the direct consequence of less funding for the cleanup, social services and medical care, housing and resettlement, health and radiation research, education and employment. But the image of safe and effective recovery, clean nuclear energy, and return to normality gets widely promoted for domestic and international consumption. Since Japan is under a state of nuclear emergency, the thousands of athletes and millions of tourists coming to the Tokyo Olympics are vulnerable to the radioactive exposure levels, in some areas 20 times higher than in other countries, radioactive fallout and contamination from the Fukushima nuclear disaster. Secrecy laws have been passed and are used to threaten and silence journalists and whistleblowers from reporting the truth to the public and to express anti-war and anti-nuclear activism. Contentious political struggle has been underway to restart nuclear reactors in Japan and to militarize Japan by changing the peace constitution and permitting the use of nuclear weapons and nuclear weapon development by Japanese corporations, thereby expanding the danger of nuclear accidents and nuclear war. We stand together in solidarity because we want a world of peace, without nuclear weapons, without nuclear power plants, and without contaminated nuclear waste. We want diplomacy and peace, not war. This is the democratic will of our peoples, and we will make that world our reality.
Thank you, Grace. Yeah, let us say all, everything. Really good. Thank you so much. Is anybody want to speak out or announce some event? No? Okay, thank you. I have a little opportunity to interview Yoko-san. I'd like to ask why you are here today.
I'm here today to support Chizu-san and then No Nuke Action, and then I'm just concerned about people in Fukushima and for government, Japanese government. Hopefully they do something, but most likely maybe they not. But hopefully they listen what we are saying and help people instead of doing stupid Olympic 2020 and use money or tax money wisely. Yes.
Do you think that many people in Japan forgetting about Fukushima?
I think media is controlling what government want to say, and then most Japanese people just believe what they're provided or information. So they don't really look into like what is going on. They're kind of denial, and then yeah, I think that's the problem. But right now, all media, everything, they try to promote. Let's buy Fukushima product. Let's support their business, stuff like that. But which is not good. It's not solution for the problem. It's more create more problems because people have to go back to Fukushima and live there and start their business or grow some vegetable and feed them. That's gonna going bad. So just wanna tell the government stop doing that.
Do you think that Abe governing, government of Japan change their attitude? Do you think?
I doubt it because I just personally don't believe government, any government, but Japanese government right now. I think Abe is like a grandchildren of war criminal family, and then I don't believe him at all. But I don't know why people vote him, and then I just think the Japanese people are not interested in participating any activity like political activity, stuff like that. So I want to tell Japanese people to wake up and see what's going on, the reality.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope many people wake up and they see the true condition of the today's Fukushima. The one of she said about like a safety campaign that the government is brainwashing people. This is a good sample that they have public education for the grade school. Under 2,500 school is on this program, which is teaching the radiation. And then let's see, one of them actually in a student said that she visited Fukushima's radiation center. It's very fun because the staff members teaching kids about radiation very nicely and easily to understand. And then she saying that that there are so many black plastic bags filling with contaminated soil and the material there. It's piling up now. She thinks that should change the color, much more colorful bags, so that it's like a cheerful tourist area. Will be the tourist attraction. So this education is really showing that this Fukushima disaster, is not heavy disaster. This is, you can change the color of the bag, make it cheerful, like that. But it's very impressed that she also said her goal is invent the eyeglasses that can see the radiation. That was great if people can make. But anyway, this is just a part of, I think, safety regulation campaign, which is people go back to Fukushima, eat Fukushima, lunch, food from Fukushima's product, Olympic game made in Fukushima, and I think the torch, Olympic torch stuff from Fukushima, I think. Anyway, government is advertising how Fukushima now is safe, but this is a lie. They even know it. Shamefully they are saying that that's the reason we are standing here. We have to go back and come back here again next month, which is May 11th. We don't give up. We cannot be fooled by government. We stand up and protest, and then we do any way that we can protect, and then save victims, especially children. They are still living in more than 1 million sievert per year. The level of the contamination area because Japan government raised up 20 million sievert per year. That's ridiculous. So, thank you very much again. Standing here with us. Shut down all the nukes!
Shut down!